911, what's your emergency?
There's blood in the water! Please, just send someone!
Who has her? Is it another person?
No! It's her alligator. Mango's attacking her. He won't stop circling.
This is the story of Lily Simonsan, animal lover, who raised an alligator like a son until the reptile reminded everyone what it truly was. If stories like this grip you, subscribe to Animal Shock Stories for more cautionary tales. Like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and remember, some instincts can't be trained away. Lily Simons was not your average Louisiana native at 34. She had built a quiet but passionate life around wildlife conservation, especially for misunderstood reptiles. Her story began not with fear, but with rescue. Following the catastrophic floods after Hurricane Isaac, Lily stumbled upon a tiny, shivering alligator hatchling barely 10 inches long. Stranded on a muddy roadside near Bayou Lafourche, she wrapped him in a towel, named him Mango because of his greenish-yellow tint, and brought him home. What began as temporary care quickly transformed into something far more permanent and far more dangerous. She constructed a pond enclosure in her backyard, added tropical plants, and built a shaded dock where she'd sit for hours, reading aloud as Mango floated silently beneath her. Videos of her brushing his leathery back, hand-feeding him chicken wings, and even kissing the top of his snout began circulating on TikTok and YouTube. Her channel, Swamp Soul, grew rapidly. Millions were captivated by the odd intimacy between woman and beast. In one clip, viewed over 4 million times, she's seen swimming beside Mango in a shallow pool, captioned, "Trust takes time, but it's worth it." She fed him marshmallows, posted photos of him wearing sunglasses, and even celebrated his birthday with a cake-shaped meatloaf. When interviewed by a local news team doing a segment on unusual pets, Lily smiled warmly and said, "He's not just a reptile, he's family. He knows me. I can see it in his eyes." Mango, now over 8 feet long and tipping the scales at 220 pounds, was still fed by hand daily. She'd tap a whistle, and he'd glide toward her like a scaly ghost. To her, this was trust. To others, it was delusion. A local herpetologist, Dr. Fiflang, Elena Trotter, gave an interview shortly after one of Lily's videos went viral, stating diplomatically, "Alligators don't bond, they tolerate. There's a difference." But the audience didn't want to hear it. Comments flooded in with hearts and admiration. "She's a real-life crocodile whisperer. Proof love conquers instinct. Disney princess vibes." The imagery of a gentle woman taming a prehistoric beast became irresistible internet folklore. When questioned about safety, Lily often pointed to her spotless track record. 7 years, not a single incident, she would say, brushing off critics. She'd laugh at concerns, saying Mango was just cranky if he hissed or refused food. Even as his jaws became strong enough to crush turtle shells and his behavior subtly shifted, Lily held firm in her belief that love, attention, and routine had replaced whatever wild nature once lived inside him. In her mind, Mango wasn't a predator, he was her partner, her confidant, her creation. What she didn't realize, or perhaps refused to admit, was that behind those glassy eyes and slow blinks still lurked the instincts of a cold-blooded killer. By the time Mango reached 7 years old, he was no longer the docile hatchling Lily had carried home in a towel. His body had grown massive and muscular, his tail thick with raw power, and his eyesons, described by Lily as curious and playful, had taken on a calculating stillness. Subtle but undeniable signs of territoriality began surfacing. Mango hissed when approached too suddenly. He tail-whipped the enclosure fence during feeding time. One afternoon, as Lily reached down to toss him a chicken thigh, Mango snapped upward and caught the edge of her forearm. The bite wasn't deep, more of a graze, but it bled. She posted a photo with a bandaged arm and a caption, "He got excited, silly boy." Close friends were disturbed. One even stopped visiting altogether, telling others it wasn't safe anymore. That wasn't a petite, was a predator waiting for an opening. A neighbor named Rick told reporters later that he'd been walking past Lily's fence when Mango suddenly surged from the water and slammed into the mesh. "It made me jump 3 feet. If that thing ever gets out, God help us." The fencing was a patchwork of chain link and wooden posts, not remotely up to standard, for housing a 200-pound apex predator. Local wildlife control issued a citation in early spring, noting the risk of escape and inadequate enclosure size. Lily promised to upgrade it, but nothing changed. Her former boyfriend, Aaron, spoke to journalists after her death, saying Lily had become increasingly isolated and defensive. She was in denial. She thought love made her immune to danger. She'd say, "He's different with me," but he wasn't. He was just biding his time. Animal rescue groups took notice as Lily's videos grew more viral. One organization sent a formal email outlining the behavioral risks of keeping a sexually mature male alligator in a backyard setting. The final line read, "It's not if, but when." But to Lily, those warnings sounded like attacks. She doubled down, posting more videos swimming beside Mango, captioning one, "If you're scared, stay out of the pond." That summer, perhaps in a bid to reconnect or recapture the innocence of Mango's youth, she resumed swimming with him, something she hadn't done in nearly 2 years. She claimed it was safe because she knew his moods, his cues, his boundaries. Wildlife veterinarian Dr. Shalene Ortiz would later explain on a news broadcast, warm water raises metabolic activity. Combined with full maturity and strong territorial imprinting, it was a volatile mix. Mango was behaving like a dominant male in his habitat, and Lily had placed herself right in the middle. Yet in July, she posted a serene video of the two of them floating silently, the caption reading, "Trust is earned, and Mango and I have something real." To Lily, this was proof of a bond that had overcome biology. To those watching more closely, it was a countdown clock ticking louder with each post. July 12th, 2023 began like many mornings in southern Louisiana, with humidity, cicadas buzzing beneath a gray sky heavy with summer heat. At around 8:15 a.m., Lily Simons stepped barefoot into the murky waters of her backyard pond, the place she had called her healing space, accompanied by her camera tripod set a few feet away on dry ground. She wore a faded blue tank top and swim shorts, hair tied back loosely, a wide grin on her face as she glanced toward the lens. The recovered footage now sealed in an evidence vault showed her waving playfully at the camera, laughing as Mango glided toward her through the water like a silent shadow. For the first minute, the scene played out like many of her videos had before. Light-hearted splashing, gentle strokes down the length of the gator's back. But then, without warning, everything shifted. Mango stopped moving, his body lowered in the water, tail stiff, eyes locked directly onto her left side. The change was subtle but unmistakable to anyone familiar with reptilian behavior. His body language transitioned from relaxed to predatory. Lily didn't notice. She turned her back to adjust the camera angle. That's when Mango lunged. With explosive force, he erupted from the water and latched onto her forearm in a crushing bite. The camera shook as Lily's scream pierced the stillness, raw, sharp, and brief. Within seconds, Mango initiated the first death roll, twisting violently in the water and pulling her completely under. The footage captured only the initial thrash before toppling into the grass, but a nearby neighbor, out walking her dog, heard the chaos and sprinted to the fence. "At first, I thought she was playing with him," the witness later said. "Then I saw the blood. It turned the water pink, then red, fast." Another death roll followed, this time audible from the shore, a dull, wet thrashing as Lily resurfaced briefly, gasping and flailing, her right leg now limp from a shattered pelvis. Then silence again. Mango dragged her deeper, instinctively performing what biologists call drowning fixation, a common method used by alligators to kill prey quickly by submerging them until movement stops. Emergency services were called within moments of the first scream, but by the time they arrived 8 minutes later, it was too late. Her body was located at the far end of the pond, pinned beneath Mango's immense weight, jaw marks visible through the torn fabric of her shirt. Paramedics couldn't retrieve her until animal control arrived with tranquilizers. The water, once the backdrop of her most joyful moments, had turned into her final grave, Mango did not flee. He hovered near the body, circling slowly, as if waiting for the next cue. But there would be no more cues, no more trust tests, or marshmallow treats only. The stunned silence of those who had watched a woman mistake fascination for safety and paid with her life. 3 hours after the attack, dive teams from the St. Landry Parish Sheriff's Office carefully recovered Lily Simon's lifeless body from the shadowy depths of her backyard pond. It was lodged beneath a submerged root system near the deepest bend, her limbs twisted unnaturally, skin marked with deep abrasions and jaw punctures. The coroner's report confirmed what most feared: blunt force trauma from multiple death rolls, followed by drowning. Mango, the alligator she had raised like a child, had remained close by, his massive frame unmoving, as if guarding the very scene of his instinctual betrayal. Wildlife officials arrived shortly after with tranquilizer guns and containment crates. Mango was sedated, bound, and transported to a state-run wildlife holding facility for observation. But the public reaction was anything but calm. Within hours, media outlets seized on the story, publishing side-by-side comparisons of Lily cuddling Mango with grotesque images from the crime scene. Social media exploded in fury, heartbreak, and division. Comments flooded her old videos. She was warned 100 times, clashed with, "Let her rest, she lived her truth." Hashtags like Mango the Killer and Justice for Lily trended for days. Animal welfare groups reignited debates about exotic pet ownership, while officials scrambled to assess their own liability. Sheriff Claude Belton addressed reporters bluntly at a press conference. No permits, no veterinary oversight, just a chain-link fence and a lot of denial. Investigators confirmed that Lily had never registered Mango with any official agency. Neighbors claimed she had ignored prior citations and that the enclosure was barely enough to keep a dog in, let alone a gator. Authorities opened an inquiry into the legality of housing apex predators on private property, citing potential endangerment to the community. Public outrage intensified as more footage emerged: videos of Lily feeding Mango by hand, swimming beside him, even kissing his snout while narrating, "You don't need to fear what you understand." These clips, now viewed through a tragic lens, were spliced into grim viral montages set to haunting music, contrasting her affection with the flashing lights of the coroner's van. Despite the backlash, many in her hometown rallied to her memory. A candlelight vigil was held outside her home, mourners placing flowers and soft toys at the gate of Mango's former enclosure. A small, handwritten sign read, "She loved without fear. May she rest." Yet others called for sweeping legislative change. Petitions circulated demanding the criminalization of private ownership of reptiles over 5 feet. Meanwhile, Mango remained in quarantine at the wildlife facility. Behaviorists observed signs of heightened agitation and stress. Officials ultimately made the decision to euthanize him, citing public safety and the impossibility of rehabilitation. His body was cremated and disposed of in a secure facility. Today, Lily's once vibrant backyard has been overtaken by weeds and silence. The enclosure sits broken and unused, its water now dark and stagnant. Her waterproof phone, recovered from the pond floor, still held the final recording: 12 minutes of still water, distant cicadas, and a bond that shattered in seconds. In the wake of Lily Simon's death, the question on everyone's lips was not just what happened, but why. To answer that, experts across the country stepped forward, with one voice rising above the rest. Dr. Madian O.C. Marcus Lanning, a leading herpetologist and behavioral ecologist with over 25 years of field experience. His conclusion was immediate and unflinching. Alligators don't snap, they follow stimulus. According to Lanning, Mango's attack wasn't a result of sudden rage or revenge. It was a textbook example of predatory response. Behavioral science outlines the precise triggers that can activate hunting instincts in reptiles: proximity, eye contact, vibration, erratic movement. In Lily's case, he explained, you had all of them. She entered the water. She moved unpredictably. She made direct eye contact. From Mango's brainstem to his tail, the response was automatic. Mango didn't distinguish between a beloved caretaker and a struggling prey animal. He was responding to millennia of evolution. And therein lies the most fatal misunderstanding of all: imprinting versus bonding. Experts describe imprinting as a process where animals associate humans with food, safety, or environment during development, not affection or emotional connection. Bonding, in the human sense, implies trust and empathy. That's the trap, Lanning continued. People think if they raise something from a baby, it knows them. But predators don't bond. They tolerate, and they imprint based on reward, not relationship. By treating Mango like a pet instead of a wild animal, Lily unknowingly walked a tightrope strung between biology and fantasy. Physiology only sharpened that danger. Adult male alligators have a bite force exceeding 2.0 strong enough to crush bone, penetrate muscle, and cause fatal internal injuries on contact. Their death roll is not theatricality, a disorienting, limb-shattering mechanism designed to drown, maim, or dismember. No amount of hand-feeding marshmallows can override that kind of anatomy. The numbers back the warnings. According to data from the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, there have been 26 confirmed fatal alligator attacks in the United States since 1948. The majority involved captive gators or situations where the victim had frequent voluntary contact with the animal. These deaths aren't about aggression, Lanning clarified. They're about misinterpretation. You think the animal knows you. You think it cares, but it doesn't. It just responds. In Lily's case, several possibilities exist. Mango could have associated her sudden movement with food. He may have felt threatened by her proximity in the confined pond. Or, in a more complex twist of ethology, he could have exhibited dominance behavior, interpreting her presence as a rival or even a mating cue, particularly if hormones were active during the warm summer season. But none of it involved hatred. It wasn't a betrayal, Lanning said, voice steady. It was biology, pure and simple. For the scientific community, the case became another grim reminder of what happens when emotional projection collides with reptilian instinct. And for the public, it served as a chilling education in the brutal clarity of nature, where love is irrelevant and the only language that matters is survival. The notion that love can tame the wild has long captured the public's imagination, fueled by viral videos, Hollywood fantasies, and the alluring idea that humans can bridge the gap between predator and pet through sheer affection. Lily Simons became a part of that narrative, unintentionally playing the role of the compassionate outlier. The woman who raised an alligator like a son, who brushed its teeth and swam beside it, who whispered reassurance into a beast's ancient ears. But behind that romantic image lies a dangerous mythone that scientists have warned against for decades. Anthropomorphism, the act of attributing human emotions, intentions, and consciousness to animals, not just scientifically flawed, it's fatal. Wild animals don't love in the way humans understand it, explained Dr. Elaine Castor, a behavioral psychologist. They respond to reinforcement, to conditioning. What we call affection, they interpret as familiarity. And familiarity doesn't mean safety. Lily's tragic end is not an isolated case. In 2009, Terry Thompson, an exotic animal owner in Ohio, was mauled and killed by one of his own big cats before local law enforcement was forced to shoot dozens of his escaped animals in a tragic standoff. In 2011, Charla Nash suffered catastrophic facial injuries when she was attacked by a chimpanzee she had known for years and considered part of her extended family. In 2020, a popular YouTuber specializing in exotic pets was nearly killed by a monitor lizard during a feeding livestream, the reptile mistaking the hand that fed it for food itself. Each case shares the same chilling thread: a deep emotional investment met with an ancient primal instinct that doesn't recognize sentiment. Lily, like them, truly believed she had something special. Friends say she was not reckless, nor was she ignorant. She wasn't foolish, one close friend shared in a local memorial interview. She was just convinced she was different. She thought Mango saw her the way she saw him. In her final weeks, her videos still radiated tenderness, brushing algae off his scales, humming softly as he floated nearby. But with hindsight, those recordings seem almost haunted. One, posted just a week before the attack, shows Mango swimming in tight, erratic circles. He refused food, something Lily chalked up to summer heat. "He's moody lately," she wrote, adding a laughing emoji and a shrug. No one questioned it. Her followers, enchanted by the story they had invested in, saw it as another quirky moment in a fairy tale bond. But experts now recognize it as a textbook red flagging animal under stress, potentially displaying early signs of aggression or illness. No one, including Lily, treated it as a warning. Instead, it became part of the illusion. Her story, like so many before, underscores a brutal truth: the belief that love, routine, or personal history can erase the primal instincts of a wild animal is not just wrong, it's deadly. And each time it happens, the world mourns not just a person lost, but a false narrative shattered in blood and silence. The pond behind Lily Simon's home once, a place of laughter, curiosity, and wonder, now lies still, a forgotten mirror of sky and vine. Algae has overtaken the water's edge, the dock where she used to sit now tilted and rotting, half swallowed by reeds. What was once a stage for viral joy and childlike awe has become a quiet grave. A small wooden cross stands at the pond's edge, hand-carved by grieving friends and placed among candles and fading photographs. Burned into its surface are 5 simple words: "Where love met instinct." It's a somber monument to a bond that captivated millions in a miscalculation that cost Lily everything. In the weeks following her death, a national conversation reignited with urgency. Animal advocacy groups seized the moment to call for stricter regulations on private ownership of exotic wildlife. Lawmakers in several states proposed bills that would increase penalties for housing unregistered predators or bypassing veterinary inspections. Petitions surged online, echoing the same plea: never again. Lily had become a symbol, albeit a tragic one, not just of what happens when love turns blind, but of how thin the line is between fascination and fatality. Her family, understandably devastated, chose to remain largely silent. But one cousin, in a rare public comment, posted on Lily's memorial page, "She loved him with her whole heart, and he didn't know better." Neither of them did. It was a reflection not just of grief, but of compassion, a recognition that neither Lily nor Mango were villains, but 2 creatures trapped in a delusion forged by affection and denial. Experts, however, were more clinical in their reflection. "Lily's death teaches a hard truth," said Dr. B4. "To Lily's death teaches a hard truth," Marcus Lanning in a national broadcast. Trust is a human word. Nature doesn't speak it. You can't rewrite a million years of instinct with a few years of routine. That message, harsh as it may seem, was echoed across forums, classrooms, and conference halls. Trainers, biologists, and wildlife officers all pointed to the case as a devastating illustration of a concept too often misunderstood. Wild is not bad, nor evil, but it is unrelenting. It doesn't reason. It doesn't adapt for us. And when we forget that, the cost is irreversible. In a final on-screen quote played during a televised segment, the words appeared against footage of the pond at dusk. "No matter how close the bond, nature doesn't forget what it is." And perhaps that is the lesson that lingers longest: not fear, but humility. A reminder that reverence and caution must accompany any interaction with animals whose biology has been shaped not for affection, but for survival. Lily Simons believed she had rewritten the script. That love, patience, and trust could transform the wild into something safe, even sacred. But in the end, the wild doesn't break for us. It waits, patiently, and then it reminds.